Good morning. We're going to talk about chapter 5 today, but first I got a question for you. Went through some reading on videos for classrooms and things like that, and some of them said that long video is not good. Some of them said it's just a short 5 to 10 minute video. I know my last one was 28 minutes. I want to know what you think. So on chapter 5, it's talking about how to institute community policing. And change is not easy for anybody. There's a process for change. You've got to identify the need for change, educate for the change, prepare for the change, make the change, then reassess. But changing a culture is a different story, and it takes a long time. So when you're talking about changing departments from the traditional policing and putting them into community policing and moving them into community policing, it can be very difficult. But the change is happening. It's happening a lot, and a lot of that's driven by society, and it should be, because police should be responsive to this society. So you see more and more departments using community policing. Not all of them are effective, but at least they're going down that path. And for it to be successful, there are other things that have to happen with it. That it has to be bought up by the top management. And it's the top management's responsibility, the chief and all of his other supervisors, to instill that feeling of community policing in the department. Eventually, if they keep on with that, they will achieve community policing. Larry Vardell, who hired me in Williamsburg, came from came from Dade County, where he was in charge of the community policing program. He had a very strong community policing background. This was in the 70s, when it was relatively new. He instilled that in the Williamsburg Police Department. And I was very fortunate to be brought up in that atmosphere that helped me to develop the way I was as a police officer. But, sometimes there were people that resisted, so it takes time to weed those out. And in any culture, it takes time to change the culture of an organization. So they're working on it. One of the things that they talk about, and if you look on page 130 in the book, it talks about the inverted triangle of management. When you look at traditional management, you always got the executive on the top, and then it goes down to supervisors. But the main responsibility of the chief of police is to make sure that those under him or her have the necessary resources, skills to meet the objective and the visions and the missions of the department. That means they are supposed to support the organization. They guide it, yes, but what's the most important function of any police organization? It's the boots on the ground, and you've got to support them. So that's the way that that's the way newer chiefs try to run their organization, with them in a support mode, but guiding this as they go along. It's just like with city council. City council's job are to provide direction and financing and all that kind of stuff to move forward, and the city departments are supposed to run themselves, answering to the city manager, county administrator, whatever it may be. Especially in a county manager, in a board of supervisors management type of government like Virginia has. So how do you do that? How do you change that? Well, it takes time. It takes time to change that mantra. But I found it to be very successful. The biggest problem I had when I tried to do that method when I became chief was the people in the department weren't used to that. And they weren't used to being empowered to make decisions, empowered to make disciplinary procedures or rulings. Everything that was not punitive in nature, as far as money or transfer, they were able to hire. They were able to complete. They were very resistant to that, and it became difficult. I was brought up in an environment where that's what the chief did. The chief empowered his people to do this. He gave us the authority to do that. You're going to have to do that to do community policing, but at the same time, you got to change the culture of the department. So think about how hard is it to implement community policing. And I want you to answer that question when you get into the discussion board. Some places it's very easy. Williamsburg was a tourist town. It was easy to get into that mode. The chief came in there to fix the department. He had to get rid of a lot of people, and it worked. It still works. But you get into other departments where it's a lot larger and you have to weed out the people that don't buy into it. That takes time. But we're seeing progress. We're seeing failures, but we're seeing a lot of progress. It's going a lot further than it has in the last decade. And a lot of that's because the department has to be responsive to the citizens. You can't do that without partnership. The whole thing's about partnership. So when you look at community policing, what do you think you're looking at to start it, to get it going? There's lots of different ways, and there's not necessarily a wrong way. So different people look at it from different aspects. So what do you think is the best way to start an organization in community policing? I talked a little bit about management style, but if you look at leadership, what's leadership supposed to do? Tell me that, and we'll talk about it in the discussion. But leadership has a function. How do you inspire your troops to motivation, those under you? Think about that. That's a difficult thing to do with some people, and you just got to push them through it. Departments also have to change their vision statements and their mission statements. It's very important because your mission statement and your vision statement have to support where your department's going, what their goal is, what their objective is. If it's to create a safe and pleasant environment for people to live, work, and play, and that's just a very short thing, but then it should work towards that goal. If its vision is in cooperation with the community, we're going to work to make City 123 a safe and pleasant environment for people to live, work, and play. That's different. So your vision statement and your mission statement, they're different, but they all have to go towards that main goal. And departments should require that their membership know what the vision statement and the mission statement is. And in Williamsburg and both my departments, that was part of the promotional exam. So they should know that. Some places you have unions. In Virginia, we're a right-to-work state. We don't have unions, but in other places, the union has to get involved. And it doesn't have to be an adversarial thing, but you can work together. There are other ways to do that, and to get right down into it, if you follow along the slides, you analyze the department. What's wrong with it? Where is it going? Where has it been, and where is it going if things don't change? Or if it's doing good, what can we do to make it better? It always has to go that way. And like I said, with the inverted pyramid, you have to empower your officers to do their job. You got to give them the tools necessary to go out and do community policing and listen to them, because they're out in the community all the time. The chief is usually talking in advance and things like that, which doesn't necessarily give you the feel for certain parts of the city. So you got to rely on those officers to do that. And you send some people to training, they'll get out there and they'll say, Chief, I just learned this new idea. I think this will work. That's empowering them to do it, because you say, go ahead, give it a try, see if it works. If it doesn't, see if we can modify it to make it work. That not only helps you, but it also shows the police and the department that you support them, and you let them try that. Because everything doesn't work the first time, and everything doesn't work as it was designed. You have to modify it. But that gives the people that work for you buy-in to the program. And that's extremely important, that they have to buy into what you want to do. So if you allow them to have some input into it and put things together, they've bought the program, they can sell it better than you can. That's a really important thing to remember. A lot of departments are real flat in the organization. They'll be real top-heavy. They'll have a chief and 14 captains and 18 lieutenants and sergeants and corporals, and then they'll have like 15 or 18 officers. Well, that's not what it has to be. When I came into Waynesboro, I came in with 4 mid-level managers in a department of 50. When I left, I had 2. One was operations, one was administration. To me, that was much more efficient. And it got rid of that top heaviness and pushed more of the responsibility down by empowering people to make those decisions. It's important. One of the first things you have to do, you got to get your department buy-in for community policing, but once you do that, how do you know what the community needs? Well, you tell me what you have to do to know what the community needs, because that's extremely important. and you don't always know what's best for them. Just like the government thinks it always knows what's best for us. That's not necessarily true, and it's not true in police departments either. So it's important to know what your community needs, what they desire, what they think of the department. If they think bad of the department, find out why, fix it. If they said, well, we'd like to see more interaction with the police department, at events and things like that, sponsor block parties, sponsor events for the kids, like a Den-A-Kid or something of that nature, or anything else. Go talk to groups like in churches. Go talk to just communities. Get out and walk around. Your officers can do that. You don't necessarily have to do it. You need to be a part of it. One of the things that my chief, Vardell, when he hired me, is that one of the things we did is we had to maintain contact with the community. And Williamsburg sent out a survey every year, for anybody that had contact with city services. It didn't make any difference what city service it was. So they would fill out those contacts. We'd probably get about 35-40% of them back, which is a really good survey. And if they had anything negative to say about any department, that department had to follow up with that individual. And I had to do several of those when I was major. But it was amazing that the public felt very strongly that their department was doing a good job. That's because one man came in and sold the idea, and that was Larry Vardell. And all his people bought into it. So if you get people to go out and talk to them, I got to know a lot of people in the neighborhood. They knew they could call me if they needed something. I knew them when I walked by. I'd stop and talk to the kids. Those are extremely important things. Kids out there selling lemonade, which I don't think they can do much anymore because some cities say they have to have a business license. Stop. Talk to them. Buy the lemonade. They're doing a car wash. Stop. Get your police car washed. That is, a lot of civic groups, well, a lot of school groups do car washes. And I found that to be one very good way to get people to know you. Because you're going in there, you're talking with them, you're building a rapport. You are also allowing them to see the inside of the police car, which kids are usually very interested in. So they learn to see you as a person and not as just somebody behind a badge. Those types of things just give you an enormous amount of capital, social capital, when it comes to the public. But there are other ways. Tell me some of the other ways that you think we can do it. But you got to remember, it takes a lot of planning. It doesn't always work. And sometimes you have to modify it to reach your goals. So I'm making this a short video. Tell me what you think. But I want you to go read the chapter and look at how some places have done this, how others have done it, and tell me what you think is the best way to implement community policing and design a program for community policing. Take care.